Louis Nash is the Bob and Gretchen Ravenscroft Professor of Practice in Jazz at Arizona State University School of Music. Over 400 albums, 10 with Grammys, Nash has played with some of the greatest. His club, the Nash, not only hosts some of the greatest musicians in the world, but serves as a laboratory for his students at Arizona State, where they can practice the art of jazz. Thank you so much for being with us, Louis.
It's my pleasure to be here, Keith. Thank you so much. I'd like to thank everyone else at Kentucky State University who's responsible for this event and for me being here. And I'd like to thank Mayor Wilkerson as well. And it's an honor to speak on behalf of this music that I love so much, and apparently all of you who are here love as well. And often I reflect on the experiences that I've had over the course of the last 40 years. As Keith mentioned, this is 2021, and 40 years ago in 1981, I left Phoenix, Arizona for New York City to join the trio of the great vocalist Betty Carter. And so for 4 years, I toured internationally with her and recorded, and had a chance to begin to understand what it means to be a part of this thing. By this thing, I mean this music and this great and rich history. And so as I reflect, going back to those early days when I left Phoenix and went to New York to join Betty Carter's group, and then in the ensuing years when I had opportunities to play with many other of the jazz legends and giants, many of them who are no longer with us now. And so when I reflect, I think about many of the things that they said and to me, or the things that occurred on tour or on stage that I learned from them, maybe without them even saying anything, sometimes by example. And so I'm grateful at this stage of my life to be able to now impart some of these stories and experiences and knowledge to younger musicians who would like to be a part of this story. And here at the Arizona State University, I'm able to do that on a daily basis with talented and interested young musicians who seriously want to know the history of this music and the ways that they can approach being a part of it and playing in an authentic way.
Sure. And and I don't want to break your flow, but one thing that comes to mind that I want our audience to understand, especially in this opportunity to share jazz with people in our community that perhaps don't always listen to it or know the history or know and understand the music. If you think about a group, a rock group or R&B group that has been together for 40 years, people follow their trajectory and their albums and see their development over 40 years. What happens in this music is you have the opportunity to work with hundreds of people that you establish a relationship with, whether it be through the tour or the being recorded on the album, that moves forward over this 40 years as opposed to one set of people. And so that ability to collaborate with different people is something so unique to jazz and its universality in terms of creating these different connections.
Very much so. And actually, I mean, to be honest, there have been longstanding groups in jazz. The MJQ comes to mind right away, 40 years plus, I think, if you add it all together. And there have been, Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers, et cetera. But what you're saying is true by and large. It's such a collaborative effort creating this music that we have an opportunity in a freelance type of way to be a part of many different musical situations and to contribute to many various musical visions that may not be exactly like ours, but our musicianship is respected to a certain level, to the level that someone who has a musical vision will figure that our creativity and our openness to things allows them to, inspires them to call us to
That's
participate.
in essence, you just set it up for what I was going to rebound back from talking about Art Blakey. These entities like that are schools, and to play with those who played that to go on and have their own careers and do their own thing. They went through that school. It's an honor that, in fact, Betty Carter is one of the few women in jazz who, in fact, was a school. And going through Betty's school and coming to play with her was a developmental and as well as an artistic process. And you don't come out the same. Talk about that to us, if you would. Share that, man, if you would.
Well, for me, I think it was great that I was fortunate to have someone like Betty Carter. Well, Betty Carter, not someone like. It was great for me to have Betty Carter as my kind of entree onto the music scene. But the reason I almost said someone like is because she was the type of person that was very demanding, but demanding in a way that served the music. So high level of intensity was always present at her shows. I can let everyone know that a high level intensity was present at her rehearsals too.
Don't play.
Betty was not joking.
Yeah.
And she took this music seriously. And that was a good situation for me to be initially involved in, where night after night, she would walk over by the drums and she'd say, I heard that already. Good place, find something else. I heard you play that already. Find something else. So to constantly be searching for something fresh and new within the confines of a particular repertoire and on a particular arrangement. It takes a lot of, wherewithal to try to find, if you're playing this stuff night after night after night, it's easy to fall into I do this on this and I do this on that. But she didn't want that.
Of course she did. And the amazing thing, the amazing part of that amazing artistry was to watch her almost conduct the group, and
she was conducting.
She was a conductor
with her arms, with her head, with her nod, with her hips, with her foot. I mean, she conducted with her whole body.
Yeah,
she always said, "Watch me, kid, watch me," because she was conducting.
Yes, indeed.
In her own way. And so, not only that, she was a businesswoman. She had her own record company. She had her own publishing company. She had Betcar Records, and I watched her box up these LPs herself and address them and put them in the box in her car and drive them to the post office and mail them off to people who ordered them. So she was an astute businesswoman in those days, before many other people thought about having their own record company. There was this pre-digital, no CDs.
So, I mean, that's two components of it. The third being, going back to the arrangements, I that was one of the most captivating. I never, as much as I love the other jazz singers, from Ella to Billy to present day, no one to me did what Betty did in terms of joining the jazz club, whether putting her in the league with Miles or anybody, or train anybody, in terms of being in command of the group, having that interplay, that interaction that jazz music is about. She was that.
Yeah. Betty was a true improviser, and she had freedom on the stage. We didn't. A lot of times, there were always surprises with Betty. Always. And she might change a tempo. This is, great band leaders are good at this. They can alter a tempo slightly one way or the other just to get a different feel on that they're looking for. Or by reading the audience, they are able to, on a dime, adjust the set and go to something that wasn't planned because they're feeling the energy of the audience. This is something that is important for band leaders to be aware of. So I got an opportunity to watch and observe her in those early days, conducting, pacing the set, doing all these kinds of things, and then immersing herself completely in the improvisations, going for it. Sometimes, maybe it didn't come out exactly as she wanted. She just laughed in the middle of her scat that she was going for something and it wasn't quite, but she's going for something. She knows what she's going for. This is that that edge that jazz musicians like to have, where we're going for something, and it doesn't have to come out perfect all the time. It's the process of going for something new that appeals to us.
Indeed, indeed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have something to share with us that help us kind of see also the trajectory of jazz as this in its universality and its trajectory as American culture. You know,
Right. Yeah, I
could
thought
you
I
share
might,
that with us?
yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I thought I might share some of those, a couple of video clips, as a matter of fact, to help make my point about the worldwide appeal, universal appeal of this music. This is Ray Charles, and he embodies to me the essence of the complete spectrum of African American musical experience in America, because you hear the spirituals, gospel, blues, jazz, rhythm and blues, all of those elements are present.
Who more than self their country loved, and mercy more than life.
This is Duke Ellington talking about what is American music.
The American Negro, very trustingly, have come along 100 years now after the Emancipation Proclamation. And of course now their demands are coming more strong, and as it should be. Their blood has been given in every war, and today, I mean, they've contributed culturally, and this thing that we're in, music, I think that is the music that is recognized as the American music, which of course is mostly Negro.
If I mention 3 pianists, take us on a quick journey, man, around the world. Tommy Flannigan, Don Pullen, Randy Weston.
Don Pullen is a pianist, if you're not familiar with his playing. He, on the one hand, he might be considered a part of the more avant-garde, exploratory, freedom type of camp, if you want to put it that way. But at the essence of Don Pullen's playing is a very gospel-y, bluesy, funky, earthy, kind of African-American tradition of piano playing. Don actually spent some time playing with Betty Carter, and Betty always said, talked about how Don could play. He could really rock the place. So he had that vibe. He really could. He had this really a way of getting really inside of you viscerally, the way he played. So I enjoyed the freedom that he had. A lot of times when we'd be playing, I was in a group that he and tenor saxophonist George Adams led. Before I joined, it was Danny Richmond in the band, a great drummer who played with Mingus. But sometimes we'd be playing and Don Pullen would just yell out, "Let it go, let it go." And that meant, freedom, just free, but with a certain kind of soulful intensity. It wasn't an intellectual kind of free. It was more of a spiritual freedom, in where there was not a timekeeping function going on necessarily, but within that milieu of freedom. Yeah, so that's Don Pullen. Now, my association with Tommy Flannigan started in 1990. I played for a decade with Tommy Flannigan. Probably recorded at least 10 recordings, 10 CDs with him, if not more. But that was what I call my graduate school, my postgraduate degree, my postgraduate studies were with Tommy Flannigan. I mean, one of the most erudite, most poetic, just flawless, I don't know, all of those types of adjectives that you can think of, I applied to him. The jazz poet was his nickname. We vicariously get some of the information through them that they got from the master. So whatever he got from Papa Joe Jones or Coleman Hawkins and Ben Webster and Ella and people like that, I didn't get to play with those people, but my association with Tommy at least allows me to approach to get something through that pipeline that came from those sources. You know what I mean? And so I'm really grateful that I had a chance to spend a decade with a master and just learn everything I could. Randy Weston used to come to hear Tommy Flannigan. That's how he heard me. So that I would hear Randy. I would look over, like we'd be at the Vanguard, and I'd look up from the drums, and I'd see Randy right there, coming to listen to Tommy. So there was something, I suppose, Randy heard in my, performing with Tommy that made him think that for the needs of his group, what I did might work. So he asked me to join him because Randy he didn't use drum set drummers all the time. He used, African and hand percussion.
Sure. Yeah.
Basis. So he was very picky about his drum set drummers. I would assume either that or he just, it wasn't a part of the sound that he was hearing in particular certain aspects of what music he was playing. But I felt very honored that he asked me, and he was always the most generous and giving with information and time. And, my association with him is a very important part of my musical development, because I would hear him night after night talk about the relationship of music to nature, the natural world. He would always say, Mother Nature is the original orchestra. Think about the birds, the songs the birds sing, the insects, the wind, the tree rustling of the trees, the sound of the oceans and rivers and the thunder and the rain. And so he would always make references to the natural world. And so I always thought that was his way of relating, getting people to kind of remember how important nature and the natural world is. And he was a strong proponent of, universal understanding of music and particularly in highlighting the contributions from the African diaspora.